So certainly the danger of samurai rebellion was very real. Samurai also had plenty of practice fighting with each other on behalf of aristocrats. By the 12th century, certainly, aristocrats had become more and more willing to resort to violence to solve their disputes. Earlier, if aristocratic factions had fought with each other, or rather competed with each other, and one of them lost, once again you would be exiled, you would be marginalized, you would very rarely be killed. Well, this became more and more a naive approach to dealing with your political opponents, once again during the 12th century in Japan. Aristocrats and emperors and retired emperors, remember, they're around, they're flexing their muscle, not being tied to the regent anymore. These retired emperors are. All of these people employed samurai in attacks on each other. Night attacks in the capital became increasingly common. This is one of these instances. Depicts a attack on the Sanjo Palace, an imperial palace, during the so-called Heiji disturbance of 1160. We will talk about that in a second. But basically these samurai were increasingly used to settle political scores in Kyoto, certainly in the provinces as well, and overall this led to the process of aristocrats becoming more and more dependent on the samurai. You send your band of samurai to attack a neighbor and they win. What now? Well, you certainly get more power, but you also have to somehow reward the samurai. So you give them some money. So you give them control of a estate or two, or their leader. You give them control over an estate or two. You might have to give them an increase in their court rank, because if you have position of influence in the government, you can do this kind of thing. So the samurai becomes from upper rank 8 to lower rank 7, and still in the capital he's a nobody, but if he's out in the countryside, rank 7 is quite a lot. So this kind of process continues, and the aristocrats give more and more of their support away to the samurai, or more and more of their capital away to the samurai, and the imperial family does, and the retired emperors do, and let's see where this goes. Fighting in the capital, as I've said, was a very serious affair. And to show you just how desultory these wars could be, and to illustrate the emergence of the Taira family, let's pick up this story when the pattern of settling grudges by violence had already become established. So 1156, the Hogen Rebellion breaks out in Kyoto. What is the Hogen Rebellion? This is actually an interesting label to apply to what happened. It's also called the Hogen disturbance. I mean, it was an emperor because somebody was rebelling against the reigning emperor, but the person who was rebelling was the retired emperor, Sutaku, who had the support of the head of the Minamoto clan, Minamoto no Tameyoshi. And the Minamoto clan was another one of these noble descended samurai clans. Somewhere down the line somebody used to be the somewhat child of an emperor, and the head of this Minamoto clan was for Sutaku, who wanted to wrest power away from Go Shirakawa, the reigning emperor. I mean, just basically, to make a long story short, these two sovereigns did not want to share power. And Minamoto no Tameyoshi was also backed up by Taira no Tadamasa and Fujiwara no Yorinaga. Now, Taira no Tadamasa was a member of that Taira family, the other great, or one of the other great samurai clans, and Fujiwara no Yorinaga was actually the younger son of the current regent, the current Fujiwara regent, who was rebelling against his father. And in part, he was one of the instigators of this. That was one side, basically people who wanted to support Sutoku, the retired emperor, because he would give them power. And the other side was headed by the reigning emperor, Go Shirakawa, a fascinating figure, one of the great, I'm not sure if success story is quite the right word, but one of the unsinkable characters of classical and medieval Japan. Is just somebody who just stays around forever, just very able to make the most out of the situation, and still somebody who was very much challenged by the Hogen Rebellion. On his side, no sure thing that he would win at any point. On his side, he had Taira no Kiyomori, who was the leader of the Taira clan. And by all accounts, a very able political animal, somebody who was of samurai rank, but who clearly had bigger pretensions. And this Taira no Kiyomori was backed up by Minamoto no Yoshitomo, who was the son of Minamoto no Tamayoshi, who was the head of the Minamoto clan, and who was also backed up by Fujiwara no Tademichi, the eldest son of the ruling regent. So on the one hand, you see here that basically people are just horrible to each other, families being torn apart by this. But you also see that these families really are being cleaved down the middle. It's not a Minamoto versus Taira versus Fujiwara clash quite yet. You have this sense that basically the samurai are not so much yet functioning simply as would-be ruling clans. The sides, so to speak, are still taking shape. And there's fighting in the capital, and Sutoku loses. And then the sides kind of rearrange themselves. The Heiji Rebellion of 1159 to 1160, from which we saw this picture scroll here, this was more of a conflict between the Taira clan and the Minamoto clan for basically who would get the most credit for their role in the Hogen, the earlier Hogen rebellion. Very kind of, very desultory kind of fighting, people fighting over scraps, you get the sense. But it is very important because these scraps are controls of vast estates, lots of prestige, court ranks, connections. The stakes are getting higher and higher between these battling samurai who are increasingly learning to operate as clans. And the Taira are led by Taira no Kiyomori and Taira no Shigemori. Minamoto clan led by Minamoto no Yoshitomo and Minamoto no Yoshihira. And they fight, and the Minamoto lose. Minamoto no Yoritomo, Minamoto no Yoshihiro, I'm sorry, not Yoritomo, Yoshitomo and Yoshihiro, they die. They are executed. And Yoshitomo's sons, Yoritomo no Ryori and Yoshitsune, they are not executed. I believe the mother of Taira no Kiyomori intervenes because these are children at this point. Yoshitsune is really just an infant. Noriyori is a toddler. Yoritomo is, I believe, 10 or 11. The sons of the leader of the Minamoto clan are stripped of their possessions. They are stripped of their honors. They are stripped of all political support, and they are sent to be raised out away from Kyoto with people who the Taira think are reliable. So it really looks like the Taira come out ahead in this very complicated fighting where the imperial family employs these samurai clans in order to kind of squash their rivals, or various branches of the imperial family basically turn on each other, and where they have to reward these samurai very well, and where the samurai themselves then kind of fall out over the spoils.